Morning and welcome. We are so excited today to present to you a CLO panel, and I am going to present our moderator, who is from Management Concepts, and this is Cheryl Cohen. Cheryl Cohen, who is going to be moderating our CLO panel today, and I'm going to pass it over to Cheryl. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the CLO panel. Very excited to be here with three distinguished CLOs. This is a really exciting one. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Cheryl Cohen, Management Concepts. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the company, but I also have responsibility for product management. So that's the group that figures out, based on your feedback, what type of training we should be providing, what types of courses we need, that kind of thing. And I'm also responsible for the learning development that actually creates this training. So thank you for being here. And I want to introduce the distinguished panel. So I'm going to start with Viking. Viking White is the current CLO for the Department of Education. Viking. Then we have Rowan Brian Beveridge. She likes to be called LBB for short, which is perfect for me. That's wonderful. And she is the CLO of the Veterans Administration. And then finally, we have Chris Butts. He has a doctorate in education, former CLO, and helps lots of federal agencies and Fortune 500 companies. So welcome, panel. Really great to have you here. Yeah, we're going to learn a lot from them. We really are. I've known them for a short while, and I'm just impressed with everything that comes out of their mouths. So hopefully you will be too. So I'm going to start with Viking. What is the biggest positive transformation you've seen in workforce training in the last few years?
That is a very interesting question, because you have to take a look at what we've gone through. We know we've gone through incredible challenges starting in March 2020. And so very quickly, what did we have to do as an L&D community? We had to change on a dime, literally on a dime, to move from in-person type opportunities and activities, and then we moved into virtual. But not only did we do that, we did that in a manner in which we made it beneficial, we made it valuable, and we just didn't throw something on the screen that once participants left that particular opportunity, they couldn't use the work. So that's the biggest transformation. We're also doing more and better with that when you look at the type of delivery systems from Zoom and some other things that we're doing. But look at the facilitators and the instructors, what they're doing. They have gone back to absolutely revise how they're delivering that particular content and that information. And so for us, I'm talking about my particular department, that was a game changer, because I just joined that organization really 8 to 9 months into the pandemic. So I'm learning that department virtually, as a lot of you learn your organization. So I had to learn on the fly. So to see how we pivoted very quickly to deliver that type of content and opportunity and still meet the business goals and objectives of the organization, it's been fantastic.
Terrific. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add?
So what I would add to that is what I got to witness is the resilience and the agility and the flexibility, even with all the different generations that we have currently in the workforce, that even though I may have been fearful of something, people took that opportunity to say, I still want to develop myself. I still want to learn something. So I'm going to step out my comfort zone, and I'm going to look and address that thing that might have given me fear before, and just step out or have that conversation, opening those lines of communication with folk to say, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me learn X? Can you help me do Y? Really going back to people understanding that it is also my responsibility to be responsible for my learning and growth.
Thank you. Chris, do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, make sure this is on. There we go. Yeah, I think with everything that the two of you have already shared, I think one of the things that stands out to me over the past few years has been refocusing the learning. I think up to the pandemic, everyone was just sort of in a cycle, rinse, wash, repeat, just keep going forward, keep doing similar or same types of things. And I think when the pandemic hit, everything sort of changed. And I think during that time, one of the things that we've highlighted more is making sure that everyone feels safe in the work environment, the psychological safety, but also really paying attention to each individual and making sure that they have what they need to be successful at work. Where before, it may have been something that was spoken to, but our focus and our concentration wasn't really in tune with that. And I think with the pandemic and working virtually and the transformation of virtual programming, virtual learning, it's really given us the opportunity to heighten our focus on that, to make sure that everyone feels that they can fully contribute at work and do it in a manner that makes them feel safe, but also makes them feel as if they're fully contributing. Because many of the things that we deal with at work on a regular basis, we no longer had to deal with. We didn't have those, those interactions that took place whenever we passed each other in the hallway. We didn't have those moments where we were trying to interpret what somebody meant as they walked by and they didn't speak, right? Or any of the, bias or microaggressions or any of those types of things that might take place in the workplace. We no longer had to see those or observe those or experience those. We were virtual, so we didn't have them as often or as regular as we did before. So our whole work culture and climate changed, and our learning programs had to change with it.
So do you see that as a positive? And what is the biggest challenge now facing all of you?
So I think one of the biggest challenge sometimes I think is getting some of our folks out of their own way. Not being fearful to take a step to develop yourself, to learn something new or be that authentic person that you need to be. So I agree with you, Chris, that I think being behind the screen allowed people to just kind of let their hairs down just a little bit. And, we had our people, our puppies and our kids and all of our new workmates, right? That allowed us to be our authentic selves. And so sometimes, because when we walk into those buildings, we have to try to be something that someone else projects on us instead of being the people who we are. And I can tell you, I struggle with that every day. Y'all saw me over there dancing. That is LBB all day long, right? I'm a mother of 5, so I have to be able to be flexible. I have to be able to meet people where they are because I'm developing the next cadre of leaders. And if I'm not being authentic to who I am, I can't expect you to do the same.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Mikey?
I really enjoy what you said, LBB. And when I heard the question, the number one thing that I was thinking about when you focus on the challenges is our supervisors and managers have to understand how to relearn how to lead staff. We've got a lot of supervisors and managers who are focused on the process. No, it's the product. I don't care how you do it. If you got kids behind you, the cat on the screen, that's fine. If at the end of the day, I'm getting the product that we agreed on, that you're going to have it ready by a certain day, that's absolutely perfect. But again, we've got a lot of supervisors who are thinking not 2019, 1919. That's how they're focusing on leading. And we've got to bring them up to this new way of leading staff. We've got these virtual tools to connect. Some employees, I'll say on my particular department, our sort of HR cadre have said, well, supervisor managers, you can't mandate an employee to always be on. In our case, we have MS Teams. So what do supervisors do? Well, I want to see you're on because I'm seeing that you're on. And that's just not the case because they're not focusing on the product. So that's just a new learning curve that we've got to educate our supervisors and managers to realize we have changed on how we lead staff.
So what advice do you have for learning leaders and HR professionals to support those managers? Chris.
Yeah, so I think and this goes along with your previous question as well, one of the challenges. I think it's giving your managers and supervisors the support. I think it comes with being intentional about the transition back to being face-to-face. Even if that's already taken place, level set, reset, and be intentional about what that looks like. It doesn't mean that you go back to 2019 or January 2020 and everyone just knows what to expect. It means let's be intentional about what the workplace looks like now and how it needs to be conditioned and set for everyone to be successful. And it may look different for each department. It may look different for each person. And are you open to that? Because oftentimes it's easier for us as supervisors or as leaders or senior leaders to keep everything similar or the same. That way we don't have so many differences within the different departments or divisions and so forth. We have to make sure that when the transition takes place or once it has taken place, we're intentional about setting everyone up for success and knowing that it's going to look different for each division, each department, maybe even each individual. That's the support that's needed for supervisors, for managers, for departments, for everyone.
I'm going to say we got to give them grace. Because just like you all are learning how to operate in this new norm, so are we. And the difference of that is the one thing that I would push for all supervisors and managers, you've got to do situational leadership. It is just a given because what a Wendy is going to need is going to be different from what a Gary is going to need, is going to be different from what a Jerry is going to need. A Derek is going to be different. We got to stop putting our employees in boxes and we got to start meeting them where they are. But I also put the onus back on our employees because if I don't know what you need from me, I can't help you. And so I intentionally don't go around telling people who I am because it closes the door on conversation. I actually had tried this in an exercise that I did for DOD. And I walked up to his gentleman and we made a funny on it because I'm LBB. He changed to LB, right? So when he was describing to me why he was in the program, he gave me the canned answer because he knew I was a senior executive and he thought that was what I wanted to hear. So by the end of our session, when I came back, because we now had that relationship, he really dug into why he was taking the program and what he was getting out of it and what he needed, because he connected versus the canned approach. Sometimes you got to teach people and teach your managers how you want to be treated, because it is definitely more of you than it is of us.
Thank you. Very wise advice there. So we've talked about this, change that has to happen and how we support the learners. How as learning professionals, what skills do you need to acquire or these people need to acquire or hone for continued growth?
The first thing that I want to talk about is I'm in a TOC experience, but I'm bringing up data.
I love it.
I know.
I love it.
A lot of you know that there is a federal-wide OCIO, Chief Information Officer Council, Chief Data Officer Council. Some of the organizations that brought back to their organizations a data training program or data science program. I actually got put on this implementation team about really 3 months when I joined the department. And my focus was to provide a learning and development lens to that strategy. So why am I bringing up data? Why am I bringing that for us to hone those skills? Because it's not for or only a data scientist or a data analyst. We've got to understand what is the type of data coming in What are we going to do to it? What type of story are you going to make with that data? What type of narrative are you going to create so that you can justify those budgets or justify that approval that you're hoping to receive from that senior leader? And so we've got to partner with that CDO, partner with that CIO, and figure out, if, especially if they have a program already in place, be a part of that. Or maybe raise your hand to find out what are they doing and see how that connects. We as learning professionals have to understand the data piece in everything when it comes to that organization. I mean, we're dealing with data already. We know that. But this is a more strategized method to actually bring that. And once your employees, once your staff starts to see how data and how they view it, how they see it is more improved, matter of fact, more efficient and better, to provide that to a senior leader to make a very impactful, but as Chris said, intentional decision based on what you're trying to do. So some people, unfortunately, they look at data and say, oh, that's not me. I'm a learning development professional. We all deal with data. We deal with data in the courses that we provide. We do assessments. That's data. But now we've got to be able to put it in a manner, not training speak, put it in a manner that our senior leader is saying, oh, I see what you're trying to do. I see the strategy. Let's go ahead and do that. And here's the budget to support it.
Fantastic.
I think we gotta, building off of what Viking just said, I totally agree. Data is the way of the future. But you gotta be able to tell data from your lens so somebody can understand what you're saying. And I agree with them, especially as a learning community. We've been in data forever, right? We do our analysis of data. We do our analysis of people. We do our analysis of competencies. That's data. But now we have to do better at taking that data and make it in simplistics for the folks who don't understand the data. So having this conversation, because I got a wonderful opportunity when I was at Commerce to be the senior advisor to the data council. And the one thing I kept taking them back to, like, I hear y'all, but you still got to take it back to the people, because even the person that is helping to service us by taking care of our restrooms are doing data. They have to measure things to make sure that it's accurate and it all mixes well so that you have a great thing to clean our bathrooms. You got to take it back down to the people side of the house. And that's the one thing that we got to stay at the foundation to ensure. It's great that we give folks all of these great skill sets, but it's going to be different from each person. My charge to you all today is to be intentional about what you need to do. I can give you all the analysis. I can give you all the conversations, but you know you better than I do. So what is it that you need from us so that we can help you get where you need to go?
Yeah, I like the inclusion of data. And I think for me, when I think about that, I think about it kind of the reverse, because there's data out there for everything. You can find data to support any approach, any outlook, any viewpoint you might have. But if you don't have the data, then it's just a hypothesis. Your viewpoint, your approach, your strategy is just a hypothesis until you have the data to back it up. So get the data to back it up, and then you can move forward with it. I also like the idea of approaching everything by taking the models and frameworks that are out there that may not be specific to learning and development, and then applying them to learning and development. How do you take them and make them so that they work within learning and development? Because when someone thinks of design thinking, okay, great. Design thinking is an approach, it's a model, great. But how do you use that with learning and development? How do you use that within your department? How can you use that in DEIA? How could you apply that? So take that model and make it specific for you, because I think one of the things that we get stuck in is designing our learning programs for, just general rather than specific. Make it specific for the learners, and they'll know that it's specific for them. That way, they'll be more engaged, more involved, more dedicated to what it is that you're putting out there.
So along those lines, what role would emerging technology play in this? You have some thoughts on that? Look, I'm a CTO. I have to ask that.
Yeah. So emerging technology, it really depends on where you are in your organization. It really depends on how far along your organization is, how experiential your organization is, or how much you want to push them to be so. Doing learning programs virtually over Zoom or over Teams might be like, whoa, brand new, experiential, wow. Doing a static webinar where it's pre-recorded might be experiential. Having an LMS where you're able to have those, a learning management system where you have those who are participating in it also place their own articles and YouTube videos and things like that in it. That might be experiential. That's phenomenal. That's great. It really just depends on where you are in your organization and where your organization is at. Now, if you want to take it to the other end, biometrics. There are so many opportunities out there for you to capture biometrics of your learners to be able to tell how engaged they are at different points throughout your learning programs. There's artificial intelligence that will view your learners. You have different cameras that will view them and capture data that lets you know if they're paying attention and how much attention they're paying, or how many times they're on their phone or on their devices, which would probably be a bad thing for all of us. So again, it really just depends on the learning programs that you're putting together. What level of involvement of technology would you like to have, and then what place is your agency or your organization at to determine which of those elements you're able to include, because you can go extreme and include those different cameras, those different biometrics, all those different elements, which will help you make adjustments, edits, improvements to your learning programs, which will help which activities, which exercises, which topics that we're covering are most engaging for the audience. Which ones are they most interested in? You'll be able to get all of that data directly from them without them having to voice it to you, which is phenomenal. It's great. But that's the data that you need to be able to make those improvements, to make those adjustments. Now, if you're not able to go that far, do a webinar. Use Teams or Zoom, pre-record something. Do a webinar virtually one time and see what type of buy-in you get for it. See what type of participation you get. But then do it a second time. Do it a third time. Get some consistency to it so people rely on it. People have the chance to participate. People have the chance to test it out. And then it gets to the place where that's just the new normal. So whenever you want to do something a little further along with technology, you've already done this piece. People are already okay with it. People have already seen the success of that one element of technology. Now you can move on to the next element. We could go on. I'll stop. But
Well, I think the other two also would like to answer this question.
I like what you said about that, Chris, and I just wanted to make this thought. One, we already know this, but I just want to say it. When we're bringing in new technologies, whatever it is, we have to think, not even in the back of our mind, but in the front of our mind, the constituencies that we're bringing this out. So I'll just say for myself, I'm at a certain age that I could say, hey, I'm about to retire. And those constituent employees are not. So you've got to be very mindful, very intentional, very purposeful. What are you bringing out to your department? And how simple it is, how engaging it is, but you also remember you're looking at a generational space throughout your department. And again, when I go back to my first answer, when I talked about that we are bringing in, the transferring of capabilities, Zoom. I don't think we even really did that because we had to make the choice. We had to move from an in-person to a virtual environment. And there was just no discussion of, okay, how do we deliver it to this particular audience? How do we deliver it to this? We didn't do that. We just made it happen immediately. But now we've got the time to actually do that. Number of employees I talk to a lot. Hey, Viking, we're going to do something on our phone. I want to see something on the phone. I just want some micro learning that you can just pop it. It can be on demand just in time. I can get it. Then I get the comment, I want a class 4 to 5 days. Don't mind if it's instructor led virtually, but I want that kind of interaction. So we have to, of course, ensure that we're providing opportunities to all of those constituencies. So I think we're already doing that, but I just wanted to make that point. We've got to think about that because that's impactful too. You don't want to have a course out there virtually led and nobody shows, or on-demand learning and no one's taking advantage of it.
I'm going to say we have to be more intentional at connecting all of those dots. So it's great to have what Chris says, and it's great to have what Viking says. I think sometimes we have to have a stronger voice in having these intentional conversations with the people who are responsible for helping us to get where we need to be. So we gotta have those conversations and break the silos and have the conversations with our CIOs, our chief human capital officers, our chief data officers, our chief diversity officers. As the chair of the Federal Chief Learning Officer Council, that's what we try to do. We bring everybody in so that we're making those intentional connections. So at a minimum, we are aware of what's going on. And we are no longer the afterthought when it comes to things being developed and somebody goes say, oh, we're getting ready to implement this. Oh, we forgot to talk about training. And how many of you all experienced that, right? Right? So we have to be more intentional of making those connections with the folks that support us in this learning and development, because from LBB's standpoint, we are the foundation. We catch them when they coming in the door. And according to my colleague right here, we catch them as they get ready to go out the door. So what are all of the stop points and the gaps in between that we have to fill to make sure that the information is going across? I told y'all I was going to be people.
No. I love that. And as we're talking about technology, I also feel like we need to step back and just, instead of speaking about the future of technology, talk about, the past, and just think about some of the things that we might take for granted now, some of the simplistic elements of learning and development. Whenever we put programs out there for, people to review and take a look at and see, are they energized? Are they excited? Do they want to attend this program? Are they applying for the program? Do they know what they're going to get out of it? I think it's really taking the time to put together an overview that is not just generic jargon speak. Like, put something together that's actually going to tell people what they're going to get out of it. Put together like management concepts, put together the objectives so they know what it is that they're going to do during the program. Put the terminal objectives, the enabling objectives, put the outcomes, the competencies that you're speaking to, like put all of that together so they know the rigor behind the program and the intentionality of the design that you've put in place. So whenever they're signing up for it, they know it's not just a check the box opportunity. Like, these elements of design are things that we know and things that we do on a regular basis. It's how it's actually communicated out to everyone else. And if we're really thinking about how does, the reader observe this and take this in, there's so many ways that we could be better at doing that so that everyone knows what the experience is going to entail and what they're going to need to be successful during the program and what they can expect to get out of the program afterward. And I think while that's not, webinars, biometrics, any of that, like, that's still part of technology to me, to make sure that everyone knows what they're going to participate in.
Thank you. You made a point that resonated with me. You said something about check the box, right? It seems like that's the common way to approach training. How do we change that dynamic? How do we get to agency leaders to have them understand better that training isn't a check in the box?
We got to stop calling it training. Let me just be honest and direct. We do training, and that's fine, but we are performance leaders. We are accountability leaders. We are HR leaders. We are the people responsible for ensuring that your most important asset, which are the people, get what they need, they get the development, they get the internships, they get the leadership training, they get promotions, they get all of these things based on what we do and what we provide. So I am honored to wear the role of Chief Learning Officer Council, because guess what? I get to lead all of you all through this transition as we change how folks look at what we do, because you can't do what you do
Hear,
without
hear.
us.
I love it. Mike, would you like?
I just wanted to add to that because it's so true. Everything that we do, it is about outcomes. Chris and I were talking about this just before we came up here. He actually worked on a program that was in my department, and as he was describing it, I'm saying, yes, we've got to do that. We've got to add to that. It's about outcomes. Experiential, absolutely, but it's about outcomes. And we provide that to our senior leaders, to our stakeholders. What's the outcomes are they looking for? And you're right, Chris, we got to be better at communicating that to the fine identification of what we're going to provide. And of course, make it simple enough for anyone to look at that documentation or look at that learning objective, or just look at that idea, that program and approach to say, wow, I see exactly what I'm going to get out of it. And one of the things that we did talk about is when we look at programs that we put out there that we support or administer, what happens when that person graduates? What happens? Excellence in Government, White House Leadership Development Program, when they come back as examples, do we grab them as a cohort and say, wow, we got some department level ideas that we want you to tackle as a Tiger team? Doesn't happen. We shake their hand, thanks a lot. And unfortunately, a supervisor or manager saying, I don't want to hear any of that you had in that program. Here's the pile of work that was there once you return. We have to have a conversation with supervisor managers before that employee goes in that program to say to them, here's the outcome that they're going to receive in that experience. We need your support to continue that momentum that they're going to come back with.
For me, along with everything that you said, I think it also goes back to data. Everyone looks, if not everyone, but whenever you hear training as a check the box sort of exercise, go back to the data. Most of the time in our learning programs, we are able to track Kirkpatrick levels 1 and 2, but are we able to put the design in place where we do 3 and 4? And when we do 3 and 4, that gives us the opportunity to have the longer engagement with our learners to be able to say, here's the success that they had when they went back to their departments or when they went back to their divisions. Here's the success that they had 6 months later, a year later. Here's where they grew in this area. Here's how they changed on their annual performance review. Here's where they had that promotion that took place. And while it may not be directly related to the training program or the learning program that they attended, it is something that we're able to track and say, a year after attending our program, 80% of attendees received promotions, or 70% of attendees increased their annual performance review ratings. Again, if we're talking about data being so important, we need to also be able to capture the data and put the designs in place that allow us to get further than Kirkpatrick 1 and 2 to just say our training program or our learning program was great for the hour they were there, the day they were there, the week they were there. Great. Pat ourselves on the back. That's phenomenal. But what happened when they got back to the office? What happened 3 months, 6 months, a year later? That's what we need to capture to be able to change the narrative around our learning programs from being just a check the box sort of exercise.
Can I add to what Chris said? Can I flip what you said just a minute, Chris? I think that's where we're struggling, because we're starting at one and we need to flip it. So we need to have our leaderships talk about, so when I send Angela to a program, what is my expected return on investment from her coming back into the organization? What is it that I'm going to align her to ensure she has the programs and stuff to obtain what I sent her to go learn, versus, oh, let's start here. Ooh, we got the happy face, yay, check. Oh, then we go to number 2, we got the happy face, yay, check. But we're not getting to being intentional on having those conversations to ensure that we're getting that return on investment.
And along with that, we need to include the supervisors in the learning program. Any programs that we can design that are more than just a half-day exercise, we should be including the supervisors in the design of the program as well, so that they know what's taking place throughout the learning program and they know what to expect from their team members when they come back. So yes, they have these expectations prior to the program, and now we include them in the kickoff of the program. Now we inform them independently of those who are participating in the program. You know, here's a developmental conversation you can have based on these different topics and elements that were covered or will be covered during the program for your team members. And when they return, have this conversation. And during the learning program, we also tell the participants, engage with your supervisor in a developmental conversation when you return back to the office. Like, absolutely get those from the supervisors, but also include the supervisors in the program as well.
Let me just add this one comment. This is credible what you two are saying. And this is my own perspective. If I'm putting an employee through a development program, training, as we're saying, I see that as a lab, because we know once they are out of that protective bubble and they come back to the organization, now we're looking for them to actually execute or do something. You need that supervisor and manager to keep that momentum going, to have those conversations and hopefully say to that employee, that was a fantastic experience that you attended. And what can you bring from that experience to improve what we have here? And so you're right, having that supervisor and manager, Chris, at the very beginning, so they'll know what's happening, hopefully having them maybe periodically within that program. And then at the end, wow, fantastic, come back, let's see those new ideas actually within here. Because again, I see it as a lab, and we know if they're not practicing what they gained, they are going to lose it. And then we go back to, what's the return on investment? It just went to great to zero because we're not seeing any actions from that employee coming back from that experience.
Yeah, I think you hit a really good point. The supervisors, the managers need to be engaged, actively engaged in the training learning process for these learners. Right? I mean, but how do we get them to that point? Because I think a lot of managers just don't know how to do that. Do you have any advice for that?
You make it easy for them. You make it easy for them. In my 20 plus years of experience, anytime, and nothing against any of those senior executives in here, but anytime I ask a senior executive or an SES or anyone in private industry that's an executive, C-suite, whatever, anytime that I ask them to do something for me or for the organization or for a learning program, they'll show up and they'll do it. They'll come and they'll speak, no problem. But if you ask them to put together a slide deck or a handout or anything like that, it's not happening. It is not going to happen. You have to make, that's why I said no shade.
Wrong
That's
senior
why-
executives there, Chris.
But that's why I said in my experience, make it easy for them to participate, make it easy for them to be involved, put together whatever they might need and get their feedback on it so that they can personalize it for them. But you have to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to participate, for them to be able to be a part of it. If you're going to ask them to do, a lunch and learn next month, sure, I'll do a lunch and learn. What would you like me to do it on? You have to tell them ahead of time. I would love for you to do a lunch and learn. You could either do it on this topic or this topic. Oh, that sounds great. Absolutely. This topic is right in my wheelhouse. Excellent. Here's a handout on some of the topics that we've discussed up to this point throughout our learning program that we think if you're able to highlight or touch on would be phenomenal. Like, make it as easy as possible for them to be able to say yes and for them to be able to do what they do and do it well. That's how you get them involved. That's how you get them to be a part of it. And they also feel dedicated to the program because they feel now that they've been a part of the success of the program, right? And you want that. You need that because now they also become a mouthpiece for the program. They also now communicate out to anybody how successful that program was and how they were a part of the success of that program, right? You want that. You need that.
I love it.
I think you have to pivot off of what you said, Chris. Anytime you need me, let me know, okay? you also, you have to do strategic conversations though. So if you're asking what it is, at least be able to say, this is what I need from you. A lot of times you say, oh, I just have this topic. I need you to come have a conversation and speak. So when someone asks me that question, I say, get on my calendar. So let's have a conversation about what it is that your expectation is of me, what thoughts I can share with you, and figure out where our win is, so that I'm making sure that I'm intentionally helping you get what you need versus putting the onus on, because no one can speak for how I'm going to speak. You're going to tell me what you would like me to hit, but I need to make sure that I'm giving you what you're asking me as a senior leader versus, and I can tell y'all when I got into I joined VA, Team VA, woo woo. I joined VA in September and I had a lot of folks managing me and I had to stop. So, because those who worked in me previous organization knows LBB has to manage herself. So in that conversation though, when I'm developing stuff for them, they will say, LBB is going to want you to get on her calendar because she's going to want to be intentional in meeting your ask so that she makes sure that she's not just checking the box. And then I'm going to stay there and answer every question. And if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find someone who does. So I am trying to be that example that you just asked for senior executives to be.
I love it. So I have a final question, but I'm not going to ask it quite yet. We'd like to give the audience the opportunity to ask these distinguished members of the panel any question you'd like. Does anybody have a question for them? Okay.
Oh, I got it first. All right. I think it's a safe assumption. I'm going to go out on a limb here that everyone in this room at some point, I have a question about money. I have a question about budget. And in a room full of training professionals at some point, and I'm sorry, did I say training? I need to stop saying training. Sorry, LBB. Professional performance improvement and learning leaders in this room. I got to get the nomenclature right. I'll work with you on that. But acquiring budget for our programs is always a struggle, right? And where you sit in your career and your titles right now, a lot of us will look at you and say, you guys have the power of the purse. So what would be advice for us if we were approaching you about some program or some initiative that required some budget that, you know, maybe we should have thought of 12 months ago and submitted in the budget, but we didn't, but we need it now. What would be advice for us in approaching you to get that budget to advance our program or initiative? Or maybe even, is there the best example in your career of someone who came to you in this situation and created a business case so compelling that it was undeniable and you had to approve it on the spot?
That's a very good question. And as we're asking it, I'm thinking about one thing. It's going back to the question about some of the things that a learning and development professional should know to hone their skills. Understanding budgets needs to be one of them. Because in the premise of your question, you should already know when, at least in my perspective, when I've already closed my budget, I've already have everything ready to go. And then you're coming at me last minute. Hey, Viking, do you have an extra 50,000 for this? I don't have an extra 50,000 because you came too late. So you should know the cadence of the organization for the budget process. If you don't, then you talk to the CLO to say, hey, can you tell me what's the plan? What's the strategy? I said, oh my God, you came up. We're actually going to start the process on this month. If you want to sit in and have and see what we do, you can actually do that. So there's a little bit of education that I'm asking for that team member, for that training professional to know ahead of time. And then we can see if we can do that, because some CLOs, not myself, may have a certain amount of money stashed away for those. Yeah, but I know I'm planning to the penny, which was what we're actually going to fund. And I'm sure these other two colleagues are on LinkedIn. So guess what? We get cold calls all day long. Not a bad thing. I'm just saying it happens that people are calling us. Hey, can I have a meeting? Can I do this? For the department, if you didn't know of education, federal student aid, huge organization when it comes to money. So of course, people are looking to come to me. What can I do for you from a training perspective? So we close those budgets out, not quickly, but we have a plan of what we're going to do, what we're going to fund. And I'm saying that because I do have meetings with contractors and vendors, but primarily I'm sending out an RFP. Because the way my department is, unless I've got requirements, I'm not talking to anybody. It sounds great, but I got to have a requirement first. And I got a canned email saying, hey, I'm glad you contacted me, but I don't have the requirements for your particular, whatever it is. And when I do, you will see that contract, or rather that RFP that's going out.
I'm gonna share, I call it the plan of ABC, LBB's plan of ABC. So one thing that I used to do with my folks at Commerce, if we get in a room, because again, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. Okay. And so we're going to get in a room and we're going to have conversations and we're going to analyze our programs and we're going to talk about it. So, but when they leave me, I'm also going to educate them about the business process and the budget process. So they understand when I send you this request, this is the timeline that we're on, but I need you to build that request for me in my ABC model. Okay. A is, if the world was your oyster and money was no object, how would you build this program or the programs or your needs that you need? B is, if I can't give you the world is your oyster, what can you do to highlight this program, still meet the need and do what you need to do? C is, that's the bare minimum. So if we get no extra money at all, LBB, this is what I have to do to meet the mission. Because when I know that you have thought about what you've done and you've talked to your colleagues, and my favorite, borrow and steal everything, because someone in this great room has done it before. Okay, so don't spend all of that time trying to create something from the ground when you have all this knowledge walking around that can help you get to where you need to faster. But having each of my PM's plans to see, okay, well, then I get my leaders in the room and we say, all right, let's go through these plans. So last year, Pam, I gave you world is your oyster. So this year, Pam, I need you to focus on just your needs so that I can give Derek the world is an oyster. And so that is kind of, and it is definitely a balancing game. And please understand, I think Mikey hit it very nicely. Just because we sit up the top, don't mean that we don't have people that we have to respond to too. And going back to Chris's point about the data, if you can use data to tell your story, to say how wonderful the programs that you are doing, get those people to come back and say, I went through this amazing leadership program. It was so phenomenal. It helped me go XYZ. Going back to the people, because they're going to be the people that you don't know who's walking around the building, and your secretary is walking around and they say, hey, you know what? That program over there, OIG, is amazing. Leadership going on, developing folks. Y'all need to contact OIG because they're doing some amazing stuff over there. And LBB's ear goes, ooh, I need to write that down. And I need to see what I can do to help them. That's how you solidify your budgets.
All right, I have another question.
Thank you. Good morning, panel. My name is Gary C. Powell, Training Officer, FEMA. So we're all aware of all the changes and transitions that we've seen over the past few years, many, of course, due to the pandemic. And I'm just wondering, so things like the balance of power shifting to employees, the nature of leadership and management and supervision and accountability changing, the notion of the workplace, what the place is, certainly being much different, and certainly the balance of power being shifted to employees. So those are just several changes and transitions we've seen. So the question is, to what extent do you see them being permanent, or at the end of the day, will they be temporary blips? Like, will we in any way go back in any of those that I mentioned, or perhaps some additional ones that you have in your mind?
I think we have to give employees voices. There are rules and regs that we definitely have to follow. The one thing that I want to give my assistant secretary, we call her our Asra, with all of the changes that are going on right now, she made herself vulnerable to talk to all of the folks and to hear, their pain points. Could she address all of them immediately? Not right away, but she was taking intent notes and she was focused on, okay, well, what can I do now? So it goes to what can we do now and do as a collaborative group to help make a stronger argument for what we need to do in the future, because the future of work is definitely changing. There is no more everyone being in the building. I mean, we got to figure out how that hybrid is going to work. And going back to technology, we got to make sure that we do have all of the technologies in place. I know Zoom was very high when we went out in 2019, but then we got the you got to stop because things were happening. And so being able to make sure that we're making those connections to everybody who's responsible for that piece of the pie will help us to continue to evolve and get to where we need to be.
And Gary, if I can kind of add this response, every organization is different. So my perspective is my department, 4,000 strong, 3,600 bargaining unit employees. So as LBB just mentioned about regulations, things like that, we are definitely going to hear from the employees because it's going to be negotiated based on what they're looking for the department to do. And I'll say in our case, we are on a momentum to enhance, but also strengthen the connection between, let's say, management and employees versus the previous administration. And so one thing that we definitely do, and I'm sure other organizations do that, we actually look at the data coming out of the feds. That's their voice. That is their connection to senior leaders. So we look at that to see where do we can talk to our principal offices to say, this is what your POC, principal office components, this is what your employees are saying to you. Now they're looking for action. Some of those actions could be L&D opportunities that we can partner with those POCs, not just L&D, but other things included. But when those voices are heard, even if it's just L&D, I make sure we're at the table of all those conversations so we can know what's happening in the organization. So I'll just sort of soften the balance of power statement, because I think it is a collaborative effort, but I understand what you mean by that. I just don't want to keep that there as a balance. I think the employees do have a different voice than what they had before in working conditions and all of that. And as I said much earlier in this forum, supervisors have to rethink how they lead. They just have to, because it shouldn't be a power structure, power struggle. It should be balanced. It should be collaborative.
Gary, I don't think it's just a blip. I think it's an evolution and will continue to be an evolution. And I think for many in government agencies, we're able to see more of private industry, of what takes place there and what their workforce is and how they're engaging with their workforce. We're able to see that more because it's publicized more. And I think that will drive or will be an indicator for a lot of what the workforce and federal agencies are looking at or are wanting. So I would say to pay attention to that, to see what sort of evolution and movement will take place. But I really think it's just an evolution and not a blip.
I just want to say just so much fantastic information from this amazing CLO panel. We are running out of time. I know some folks were eyeing me up and giving me the look like, give me the microphone. I need to ask a question. But I'm going to pass this microphone back to Cheryl so that we can have her continue to close out this discussion.
One quick, do we have more time? Because you had originally said we could go past. Okay, no. Okay, we're gonna go with one more question. Who's the lucky winner? Oh,
We are counting on you.
Bring it home, Malia.
Hi, I'm Malia Rose, and I'm the learning officer at FTA. And as a first timer to TOC, I've just had a spectacular time. So thank you for that. But my question is, from your perch, what's the uniqueness and goal that is special to this particular conference?
Well, I think I have to answer that since my colleagues wasn't here. I can tell you that I've been participating in TOC for many years, not consistently, because going back to some of the items that you all shared, justifying why I got to go, right? But the value that you get is not just the networking piece. It's about the people. It's about the connection. It's about the learning. It's about the upskilling, the reskilling, like everything that you all have done while you've been here for these past few days. You've been connecting with folks. You've been meeting amazing vendors in the back that can potentially help you solve your problems. The one thing that I hope you got challenged to do, because I know the very first one that I came to, it gave me the voice to be challenged to be LBB. And I understood that I had a voice and I had a message to share, to be able to help develop the next cadre of leaders. And that's all I have ever done since I started on that journey. So most of y'all don't realize I started in the government as a GS2. So if I can do it, there is no reason that no one in this room cannot achieve senior executive service if that is what you want to do. And I can tell you, I went kicking and screaming. I can't tell a lie, because I am LBB and I'm going to be LBB and I'm going to talk to the people. And I've had my staff reminds me all the time, you are the CLO, ma'am. I got you. I understand, but let's throw these letters out the way for 2.5 seconds, because a Mike ain't gonna come talk to me, or Wendy ain't gonna come talk to me, or LaDonna ain't gonna come talk to me if I am so high that I can't have a conversation about you when you're frustrated, right? When you're trying to get your development, right? When you're looking for a coach and I have this massive connection, I have all of you times 10. So if people are looking for development, or I need somebody to just understand that pain, I'm having that day where nothing is going right. And we've all had that, right? You've walked in and you had everything planned to the nth degree, and there goes that boop that sends you over here. Having the folks to have experienced that with you, they may not be able to answer the question, but they can understand and relate. And it can probably connect you with that person that can help you solve the solution that you're looking for. So for those that are online, if you have not had an opportunity to attend a TOC, I'm going to implore you to attend a TOC, especially because learning and loving and caring is what we do as learning leaders.
okay. Where do you go after that? That was perfect. I want to thank my panelists. They have been tremendous today. I think we've gotten a lot of great advice, right? And they're approachable, right? So don't let them leave if you have more questions, because they'd be happy to answer them. So thank you again for joining us at the CLO panel, and have a great rest of your day. I know we're between you and getting home. So thank you.
So we want to say thank you again to the panel. Thank you, Cheryl, for facilitating. And it, like LBB said, we are a TOC family. We grow, we connect together, and really we do remain connected with one another. So I'll share personally my connections with each person on this panel. Mr. Chris Butts came to BEA to teach a class, and he was well loved by our economists and statisticians. And if you know anything about those people, they are very, one of them, right? And she will tell you, they are very quiet. They are very nonchalant. Some of them are very nonchalant, and you don't know what's happening in those big brains until they tell you. And Chris was able to speak to them. Chris is very animated. He toned it down a bit for the panel, but he is very animated, and he was well liked and loved by our staff. And so we have remained connected ever since. And then we have LBB, who was my CLO up until August of last year. Thank you so much, LBB. LBB has always been dynamic and engaged. And like she said, she is the voice of the people. So if anything the CLOs needed across the entire department, LBB was always there to listen and to answer the call. So thank you, LBB. And then Mr. White, Mr. Viking, I actually connected with him because one of my colleagues at BEA left and went to the Department of Education, and she was telling me about Viking, and LBB backed that up. So all of this, all that we are here today and we've done over the last 2.5 days are to build connection, are to build community. So like I said yesterday, if you have your QR codes before you leave today, make sure that you share those with people that you've connected with so you can remain connected, so you can continue these conversations and the continued growing and development. Thank you. Thank you all. So we have some closing remarks if you all want to leave the stage, and then we'll close out. Thank you so much. Yes, and thank you so much again, Cheryl. We definitely appreciate your ability to really focus the panel and to get all this wonderful information. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. As we come to a close today, there's tons that you all have learned and consumed over the last several days. There's so much that you have to digest. You have a 2+ hour ride home to be able to do that. So hopefully in this process, you're really able to digest this information. But we do, before you all leave, there are surveys in the guidebook. There are surveys for the sessions you attended, surveys for today, surveys for the entire annual institute, and surveys about the future of TOC. So please, please, please complete your surveys, give us feedback, tell us what you would like to see more or less of, and how we can continue to improve our programming for you. I would like to call up our sponsors and vendors who have giveaways, and we will start with Franklin Covey.
Good morning, everybody. We did a drawing for a certification for the Speed of Trust program, and the winner was Gary Powell.
And next we will have eSkills.
Good morning, everybody. It's been a huge pleasure to be here this week. It's our first time at TOC, and we have made so many wonderful connections, and we're really looking forward to hopefully seeing you again next year. So we actually had so much fun that we decided to up it to 2 gift cards. So $20 Starbucks in case you need an extra jolt for the ride home. So our first winner is Nakima Carter with the VA. You still here? She left? Okay. Yeah, we can. Thank you, LB. Okay. Our next winner is Alyssa Gilberg with FTC. So is she still here? Oh, yay. Thank you guys so much, and everybody have a safe trip home.
And now we'll have team results.
Hello, folks. I hope you all had as much fun in the last couple of days as we did. It was a pleasure. Thank you so many of you for dropping by our booth and playing with the toy car. You have one last chance for the teamwork vehicle after this, just before you go home, if you want. We're going to do 2 prize draws, but before that, there's a group of people that have been like the proverbial duck, calm and peaceful on the surface. Everything's lovely. Beneath, paddling like mad, more so even than usual. How about a huge hand for our organisers, please? Amen to that. Lanira, I wonder if you'd help me. We're going to do 2 prize presentations today because we have so many cards. One seemed a bit mean, so I'm going to give them a bit of a shake. The only rule is you have to be here. So we're going to keep going till we find someone that's actually here. All yours, and you're going to want the mic.
All right. The first winner is Dr. Jackie Rogers with PTG. Jackie.
Go, Jackie. Jackie, this is actually an author signed book. If you hang around afterward, I'll inscribe it for you and thereby reduce its commercial value to 0. Because you can't return it, then it's been defaced. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do this one more time. That's one of our staff. They're disqualified. And I know who you are, that person.
All right. Our next winner is LaDon Williams.
All right, come on up, LaDon. Come on down. Take a bow. That's it. Good on you. I knew the introverts were out there somewhere. If you would like that sign, just say the word afterward. Thank you very much, and I hope you had a good time.
I did. I want to thank everybody. No.
Thank you for your loan of the stage. Back to you.
Thank you so much, team results. And now we'll have Deirdre Welcome with Concerning Learning.
I'm put you to work too. Okay, so Concerning Learning is celebrating 12 years in business, which I mentioned before. And thank you. And I would love to have 12 people celebrate with me by giving them something special and helping me lighten my load as I go home. So if you learn one thing, the first 12 people to come up to me and take a selfie with me, if you learn one thing during this whole session that you didn't know before, I would love for you to come take a selfie with me and then meet me at the booth so I can give you your giveaway after the session is over. Yeah, you can take the picture, so you can't be in it. I put him to work now. I only need 12. Who's counting? Who's my counter?
We're doing groups? Okay.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
All right. I got mine. I'm trying to get you. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Let me get selfie after selfie. There we go. Okay. All right. That's all right. Okay. I'm over here.
There we go.
All right, so tag Concerning Learning and meet me at the exhibit hall before we're over.
Thank you. All right, and now we have management concepts.
Thank you, ladies. And this has been a great event. So it's been wonderful seeing everyone. And we have an electronic gift card. We've done the raffle. So we're really just going to smile with you, shake your hand. So the winner is LaTanya Knight. There we go. Congratulations. So we'll confirm. Yeah, come on, shake our hand or we'll hand you the invisible gift card. Yeah, I know you all have met Kurt already, so. All right, thank you. Oh. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, great picture, Steve. We got the picture going.
all right. And we're happy to be a silver sponsor. So thank you again. And thank you, ladies.
And thank you to all of our sponsors and exhibitors. It was very exciting seeing you all win your goodies. Speaking of goodies, we do have some more out on the table as you head out. So please feel free to grab what you'd like on your way out of the door. And one final thing, Malia Rose is formerly with the Peace Corps, and she is very excited to connect with anyone who has been engaged with the Peace Corps. So please find her in her beautiful teal glasses. All right, so connect with Malia if you have any connection to the Peace Corps. All right, so I think those are all of the general announcements that we have. And like we said earlier, I know we're standing in your way of getting on the road. So we want to wrap this up for you. So thank you. Did it. Did it. I'm a crier, so it's okay. Don't worry. But sincerely, thank you all for all the compliments, comments, for your patience, for your understanding. It's a huge undertaking, and Denise has been by my side the entire way. So thank you all so much for everything, for being here. I'd like to say that in several years, this is the largest Wednesday showing that we've had. So thank you for staying around. I'd like to acknowledge the hotel staff at both hotels have been great at accommodating us. Our AV guys over here, Justin and Trevor, are keeping us down. All of our sponsors and exhibitors, as I've mentioned before. I'm going to thank someone who is not expecting it and is going to refuse to come up, but we're going to get her up here. Nicole from VRS Events. Come on, Nicole, come on. You have to come here. Nicole is the one who's been doing our registration. She's making sure that you all have what you need. She makes sure that we stay on track. She keeps us going every day. Nicole does this on a daily basis, but for us, she loves TOC the best. I will tell you that. So Nicole, we truly do appreciate everything that you've done for us to keep us going and to make sure that days like today we're able to show up and really make sure things happen. So thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you. There are tons of people on the program team who have made this happen. We have a volunteer photographer, DeLauren, wave your hand. And Lynn has been holding us down on social media. Lynn, where are you? Lynn has been holding us down on social media. So thank you so much, as well as Rhonda. They've been holding down our social media, making sure that people know that we're here, know what we're doing, and are excited to join us next time. And I'd like to thank Shanda. Come on, Shanda. Shanda was in charge of our program and our program volunteers. Shanda made sure that you all had content that is super valuable coming here today. So thank you so much, Shanda.
So thank you very much. Yes, so I have to say that we had an amazing team, the program committee, who started way back in November when we put out our requests for proposals to come in. They got together. We did a blind review of over 60 proposals and weeded those down to the sessions that you saw while you were here. So I would like to thank our program committee. Where are you, Chris? Thurla had to leave, so we have Thurla. And Janae Barbie, who is online. She could not attend. She had to attend virtually, so we'll have to get hers too there. But I also want to say that Chris here and Amy Newbelt, who is on our camera, she is our virtual producer, was our tech team. So he did tag team. Chris also did our guidebook. So there's a lot of hats being worn. We are an all volunteer organization, so we wear tons of hats as we do our jobs here. But without these folks, we couldn't give you the program that you have today. I want to thank two other folks that are sitting right here at this table. This is Esther Anero. Esther, get up and wave. And this is Jeanette Passons. They tag teamed for logistic coordinators and sat in on our sessions, made sure our speakers were able to get connected. They ran the AV folks to make sure that everything was working properly, gave me head counts. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
And we'd also like to thank Kelly Gerstenberg. Is Kelly still here? I think she had to leave. But Kelly also helped to manage our exhibitors. Kelly was great with coordinating all of this that you see and making sure everyone had what they needed to be able to have a presence with you, whether you were here in person or online. And I'd like to thank especially my vice chair, Ms. Denise Medeiros, who. So if you know me, you know I'm a softie, and Denise has been my pit bull. Denise definitely kept the fire going and really just helped in the midst of all the changes and things that occurred. Denise really was there, keeping me calm and making sure that you all had everything you needed to be able to be here and have an enjoyable experience. So thank you so much, Denise. I could not have done this without you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so she doesn't know that I'm doing this, so I have to run over here and do it. So a lot of you might not know that the word pipeline is related to surfing because it is a tube that you surf through. So the wave is coming down, you're in the tube, you can't see where you're headed. Things are happening all around you. You're surrounded by water. You think you're going to drown. And then you come out. And that's what Lanier did. So, Lanier, I just want to thank you for your amazing leadership, for your steadfastness. And while I was trying to be your pit bull, you were the one keeping me calm. And she just went with those waves. She just rode those waves and she never got off that board. She just coasted right through that pipeline and came right out with hardly a drop on her, except for those tears because she cries at everything. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I hope that I can fill some shoes because that was a crazy amount of work that Lanier took on. And she was there to support everyone else around her that was supporting her. So thank you so much for your amazing leadership.
Good afternoon. You know what? I like to get the whole board up here. All the board members, please come up. Please stand up. All y'all come up here. Yes. Let's give our TOC board a round of applause. And everyone has been really, really enjoying the annual institute. As we've heard over and over again, just how amazing Laniera and Denise have been. Oh. There you go. There we go. This has just been incredible. And there's so many obstacles, so many road bumps, but they just rode the wave perfectly. And I just think it's, important for the whole board to be here, to recognize them and their hard work and let them know just how much we love them for stepping up. We're all volunteers. We are not going to walk out this room and get paychecks. They really, really did a yeoman's job. I mean, true rock stars. So we have something for the two of them. And while we grab that, you know what? Can I get everyone? I'm just going to, like you said, be LBB. I'm going to be GCP. Can we get everyone to stand up, please? And on the count of three, I just want everyone to say, Laniera and Denise, you rock. 1, 2, 3. Laniera, Denise, you rock. So we have some tokens of appreciation, some very beautiful awards for them. And I'm going to let our incoming TOC chair, yesterday I said president and I got my hand slapped, share some words.
Oh my gosh. So I woke up at 3:00 this morning realizing that I'm a chair of an organization. And I was like, whoa, I'm always in the background. So I don't speak eloquently in front of folks. This is going to be my stretch assignment this year, to learn how to pull in my emotions and learn how to speak in front of you guys. But I want to say that I'm super, super proud to be a part of this organization, just to be a small part of this organization, and to work with the people that you see here who are amazing and love this community and put every ounce of their heart and soul into this organization to bring you guys together, to bring you learning and development programs that are meant to forward your careers. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm going to work on this. I just wanted to say, Laniera, I know that I kind of sold you a bill of goods this year. I was the annual institute chair last year, and I said, Laniera, we're going back to Ocean City. They know us. They love us. It's our favorite place to be. It's going to be just like an easy chair. She was like, oh, sure, no problem. And then she's like, I got Denise. Denise is going to help me. And I said, oh, perfect, because you guys have separate strengths. So I know that she found her perfect match. And then all of this happened with the hotel, which she has rolled with amazingly. I know I've heard from some of you folks who were like, we had no idea that all this was going on in the background. So the proverbial duck, you see the ducks here, well, their little feet are going 90 miles a minute under the water, but no one would know. So I just want to say how pleased and proud I am for the Annual Institute that you guys pulled off. Thank you for bringing this to us, and thank you for just, having our backs, for making sure that we were all taken care of, no matter what the circumstances were.
So this is it. Just tell everyone, go home, drive safely, and say a prayer, because I want you all to get home safely.
And see you in
24. We need a theme song. TOC.